Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I welcome you all here in this session at TNV Academy. It's a great pleasure for me to introduce our eminent speaker, Mr. Rishabh Gupta, today, who is going to talk to us about basic fundamentals of a HACCP plan. In this webinar today, Mr. Gupta will discuss this topic in detail along with some real-life examples he has experienced in the industry. Our distinguished speaker, Mr. Rishabh Gupta, has done his graduation from Kanpur University, India. He is a lead auditor in ISO 9001, 14001, 45001, 22000 and 27001. He is also a qualified Green Belt Six Sigma expert and has immense knowledge in the quality sector as well. He has an industrial experience of around 7 years in ISO standards, certifications and implementation, quality assurance and quality control. He has been imparting training to a number of organizations, entrepreneurs, and executives on various topics related to ISO terminologies, management system standards, auditing practices, and quality tools. It was just a brief introduction of our guest speaker today. And now, ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Mr. Rishabh Gupta. I may request Mr. Rishabh Gupta now to please start your session on basic fundamentals of a HACCP plan.
Thank you, Mr. Apoorv and TNV Academy for giving me this opportunity today. So, friends, as already stated by Mr. Apoorv, today's topic of discussion is the basic fundamentals of a HACCP plan. So, let me start with the presentation. So, today's topic is the basic fundamentals of a HACCP plan, as we discussed. So, first one is what is a HACCP plan? So, the acronym HACCP stands for Hazard Analysis Critical Control Points. A HACCP plan is a food safety monitoring system that is used to identify and control biological, chemical, and physical hazards within the storage, transportation, use, preparation, and sale of perishable goods. It also determines critical control points, CCPs, in the process of food production. While HACCP, what is the basic HACCP plan? While HACCP is an approach, a HACCP plan informs people of the necessary food safety related procedures that should be followed to manage food safety hazards. Essentially, a HACCP plan is needed to go about HACCP in the right way. HACCP is also necessary for processing most of the foods. The food FDA requires businesses to use the HACCP approach for seafood and juice processing, while the USDA requires HACCP for meat and poultry, and the Food Safety Modernization Act requires a food safety plan for, well, everything else. Now that you have understood what HACCP is in more detail, it's time to turn your attention to the HACCP plan. So now let us understand that why an organization need to have a HACCP plan in place in relation to the manufacturing of some food products. HACCP-based procedures provide businesses with a cost-effective system for control of food safety, from ingredients right through to production, storage, and distribution to sale and service of the final consumer. The preventive approach of HACCP-based procedures not only improves food safety management, but also complements other quality management systems. The main benefits of HACCP-based procedures are saves your business money in the long run, avoid you poisoning your customers, food safety standards increase, ensures you are compliant with the law, food quality standards increase, organizes your process to produce safe food, organizes your staff promoting teamwork and efficiency, due diligence defense in court. You may choose to preserve your own food at your facility for a variety of reasons, like if you prefer using your own house-made ingredients or if you want to sell food that you preserve on site. Food manufacturing plants and suppliers should have HACCP plans and procedures already in place. HACCP plans provide detailed instruction on how to properly preserve food. If not followed correctly, you could have a major foodborne illness outbreak. If you need help creating your plan, your health inspectors or maybe other regulatory agency will be able to help you identify which steps could present hazards and how they should be controlled and monitored. Now, as we have understood the importance of a HACCP plan, we should now take a look that how it should be created for its effective implementation. Food preservation must be done correctly in order to prevent foodborne illness. Just like creating a HACCP plan, there are 7 steps you need to follow when creating a plan. To help explain each step, we will use house-made pepperoni as an example. Imagine that you are creating a HACCP plan because you want to cure your own pepperoni. So the 7 steps for creating a HACCP plans are: number 1, perform a hazard analysis. This step will help you identify possible food hazards in your establishment. This could include the ingredients you use, equipment used, chemicals you used, and staff. Those will be making the pepperoni or maybe other food products. Number 2, determine critical control points. In this step, you will determine which hazards identified in the first step that can be controlled. For example, you could say that the meat will be cooked to a certain temperature to ensure it is safe to eat. Number 3, set critical limits. As part of this step, you will set specific limits on the critical control points. For example, you might say you will cook the meat to 155 degree Fahrenheit. If you will be testing for a bacteria like Listeria, you should set limits for that as well. Number 4, establish a monitoring system. So this monitoring step ensures that the critical limits are being met. For example, if a critical limit for making pepperoni is cooking it to 155 Fahrenheit, then the monitoring system would be using a thermometer to check that temperature and recording it in a temperature log. Number 5, establish corrective actions. So the corrective actions are necessary when the critical limits are not met. For example, if the temperature requirement has not been met, you may need to cook it longer. In other cases, food may need to be discarded. Following the plan for corrective action is crucial in preventing foodborne illness. Number 6, establish verification procedures. So this step allows you to see how well your HACCP plan is working. Verification procedures can include watching employees perform actions like taking temperatures and filling out a temperature log. Make improvements to your plan and work with your regulatory authority to ensure a HACCP plan is the best it can be. Okay. So number 7 is establish record keeping procedures. So this step, records for HACCP plans include the hazard analysis, the plan itself, and the supporting documents for the critical limits. In this example, the supporting documents would likely be temperature logs. Store and maintain these records in an accessible location so your employees can refer to it as needed. In addition to the following these 7 steps, you may be required to put certain labels on your food. For example, if you pasteurize juice at your facility, you will want to include the fact that it's pasteurized on the label. Work with your liquor regulatory agency to ensure you have an accurate label that meets the required standards. Additionally, preserving food in a certain ways like using vinegar in fruits and vegetables, curing meats, and pasteurizing juice needs to be done in a specific ways to prevent foodborne illness. If you want to preserve your own food on site at your facility, you will need to create and follow an approved HACCP plan. How to establish a HACCP team? For effective implementation of a HACCP plan, definitely one must need a core team who can play an important role in making a HACCP plan a success. To fully understand the commodity system and be able to identify all likely hazards and CCPs, it is important that the HACCP team is made up of people from a wide range of disciplines. The team should include a team leader to convene the group and direct the work of the team ensuring that the concept is properly applied. This person must be familiar with the technique, be a good listener, and allow all participants to contribute. The second one is a specialist. A specialist with a detailed knowledge of the commodity system is required. This specialist will have a major role in the production of the commodity flow diagrams. Next one is several other specialists. Several specialists, each with an understanding of a particular hazards and associated risk. Example, a microbiologist, a chemist, a toxicologist, a QC manager, a process engineer, etc. Multitasking specialist. Multitasking specialists such as packaging specialists, raw material buyers, maybe distribution staff, or maybe production staff, farmers, brokers, anyone who are involved with the process and have working knowledge of it may be brought into the team temporarily in order to provide relevant expertise. The team's progress and result of the analysis should be recorded by a technical secretary. If any changes are made to composition or the operational procedures, it will be necessary to reassess the HACCP plan in the light of the changes. Now, let me show you a sample HACCP plan designed by an organization which will help you understand how it can be created, covering all the needed parameters. List of foods covered by this plan. List and describe the food that will be covered by this plan. Flow diagram, formulas and recipes. Create a flow diagram listing and describe all the steps from receiving the food or raw materials to serving the food to the customer. Indicate on the diagram which steps are critical to the safety of the food. This can be done through your own hazard analysis, or this may be provided to you by the process authority. Describe the equipment, materials, and ingredients used in the preparation of the food. Attach or include any recipes or formulas used in the preparation of the food covered by the plan. Training program. Describe the training program you will have in place for employees and supervisors that will be handling these foods or monitoring these processes. Examples might include training in the proper use of the equipment, the cleaning of the equipment, proper employee hygiene, prevention of cross-contamination, the hazards involved in the process and how they are controlled, the use of and calibration of the monitoring equipment, and the last one is the critical limits and corrective actions to be taken if they are exceeded. Okay. General standards operating procedures. List and describe general standard operating procedures related to this process. These procedures should be posted in the processing area. Examples might include cleaning procedures, specification for packaging or equipment, product handling procedures, use of equipment, storage condition, and the last one is employee hygiene requirements. Standard operating procedures at CCP. For each critical control point identified in the flowchart, listed the following. CCP. Identify the step that has been determined to be a CCP. Hazard. Identify the hazard of concern. Examples: time, temperature, abuse leading to pathogen growth, and others. Critical limit. List the critical limit at this step. This may be determined through your own hazard analysis or be provided to you by the process authority. Monitoring. List how you will monitor the process at this step to ensure that the process is under control. Include who will do the monitoring, the equipment that will be used for monitoring, and the frequency of the monitoring. Verification procedures. List the procedures that will be used to make sure that the plan is being followed correctly. For example, weekly checks of monitoring records to make sure the monitoring is being done and no critical limits have been exceeded. Include any equipment calibration procedures here. Next one is corrective actions. List the procedures you will follow if a critical limit is exceeded. Include both the actions you will take to bring the process back under control, and you will handle any product that might potentially be unsafe. Next, records. List and attach copies of the records that will be used to record the result of the monitoring. Monitoring forms should have the critical limit on the form for easy reference. Calibration monitoring logs should include calibration instruction on the form. The next chart on the next page can also be used to list the SOPs at each CCP. HACCP plan form. Number 1 is critical control point. Number 2, significant hazard. Number 3, critical limits for each preventive measure. Monitoring, what, how, frequency and who. Number 8, corrective actions. Number 9, verification. And the last one is records. Necessary documentation and record keeping. Efficient and accurate record keeping is essential to the application of a HACCP system. HACCP procedures should be documented. Documentation and record keeping should be appropriate to the nature and size of the operations. Documentation examples are hazard analysis, CCP determination, critical limit determination, record examples, CCP monitoring activities, deviation and associated corrective actions, and the modification to the HACCP system. I hope that you all were able to understand the concept of a HACCP plan. Now I will take questions if there are any. So I welcome all of your questions.
Hello, sir.
Rishabh sir, I have a question.
Yes.
Sir, the plan which you shared, the HACCP plan which you just shared with us, every organization will have the similar HACCP plan, or it might vary from organization to organization.
No, every organization will not have the same HACCP plan. The format will be the same, but the elements of the plan will be different, as every organization will be dealing in different set of products. So it basically varies from organization to organization.
Thank you, sir.
Now, Rishabh ji, I have one question or more.
Please go on.
Could you please tell me what is the critical limit?
A critical limit is a maximum and/or minimum value to which a biological, chemical, or physical parameter must be controlled at a CCP to prevent, eliminate, or reduce to an acceptable level the occurrence of a food safety hazard.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Hello, Rishabh ji. My one question is, you mentioned in necessary documentation and record keeping. There is one question is documentation examples you mentioned. My question is how you do the hazard analysis under this HACCP plan.
As I already told you, just a moment, you are asking for the hazard analysis, no?
Yeah, how in under this HACCP plan, what is the procedure, what is the process for this hazard analysis? My question is only, sir, hazard analysis is a part of HACCP plan or CCPs?
Sir, hazard analysis are defined as the process of collecting and interpreting information on hazards and conditions leading to their presence to decide which are significant for food safety and should be addressed in a HACCP plan.
Okay, thank you, sir. My one more question.
Yes.
In my mind, this CCPs is applicable only to manufacturing sector. Any other examples I want to.
CCPs are basically related to the food industries, but not limited to the manufacturing industry. They can be vary from manufacturing to service industry, trading industry, but all will be related to the food safety and the food manufacturing, food service, food trading units.
Okay, thank you so much.
So hope you all confirm your questions. So may I request to Mr. Apurv Malik to conclude this session.
Yes, sir.
Apurv, over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Rishabh, for giving your valuable time to conduct this particular webinar. I am glad that you shared all the complete knowledge that you have gained in past few years of your expertise and your experience. I hope that all the participants will be benefited by the knowledge which you have shared in this particular webinar. I cannot thank you much for your effort and time which you gave to us. This was a wonderful webinar. The presentation was wonderful. Everything was well explained. And I hope that we see you again. You join us again in our next session. I thank all the participants as well for their valuable time and support. I hereby conclude this particular webinar today. Hope to meet you all soon in a new session again. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Paul ji.